Okay, we are live. Bismillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Welcome back to another Muslim Mirror podcast. I'm your host Ismail Howell. And once again, we have our Ustad, our brother, Imam Abdullah Muhammed, who is going to go through part two of a very, very important topic about the modernist crusade to dismantle the traditional family. Now, in the first part, we actually spoke about the different family structures over history, the different, the faith-based, the kind of tribal-based family, how that is the basically the asl, the origin of the family, and how in modern times that's beginning to change. Now these changes that are happening to the family are the case that Abdullah Muhammad is going to put today is engineered. It's by design that the family is being broken down. It's by design. It's changing, and the roles of the man and the woman are also changing. It's by design. It's not by, how could you say, freedom or respect for women's liberty. It's by design. So we're going to discuss that. We'll jump into this topic straight away. Um, One second. So over to you, Abdullah Muhammad. Let's jump in this topic straight away. If you can just explain to us, how is the modernist crusade dismantling the traditional family? Fadl.
Yeah. Well, I think we also have to be mindful that we have to avoid any kind of generalization.
Mm-hmm.
And with that in mind, it's really important to acknowledge that there are still marriages out there today that are
Mm-hmm.
working great, and
Mm-hmm.
some working very good, and some are working good. So
Yes.
I want to really acknowledge that. So we're not saying, everything is the same. No, we're not saying that. But
Yes.
by and large, there is still significant of families and
Yes.
marriages that are hugely affected, that are struggling, and it's such a painful thing. If you
Mm-hmm.
listen to them, their cries, it's so painful to stay in marriages to the point where people are tempted to think that life outside of marriage would be much more painless, will be much more peaceful. You may have
Rewarding.
outside
Mm.
marriage. So
Mm.
that's because of the internal pains of marriage, and sometimes the outlook from the outside, if somebody is not married, and they look and see people are internally suffering and suffocating in
Mm-hmm.
marriages, then that kind of cause a lot of people to be put off from marriage. So yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of people are struggling deeply to hold their marriages together. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of casualties in this issue. So yes, there are some marriages that are still working. Some are working great, fantastic. Some are doing good. Some are okay, and some in various levels of good. Um,
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. So, why do you think it's essential to speak about this topic? Do you think there is an attack on the marriage structure? Is there a decline of our relationships under more stress than they were in the past? Why the need? Why the importance of this topic right now in this day and time?
well, up to now, I mean, this topic is underexplored.
Hmm.
For
Okay.
many people from the religious communities, um, some of us, we go to Juma and we really don't hear these conversations happening. We really
Mm,
hear about it. And if we hear about it, we hear about it in one little spot here, a little dot here, a little trinkle here, and
mm-hmm,
it's all fragmented.
mm-hmm,
And the question of broken families, if people don't recognize it,
mm-hmm.
you will see the consequences of it. So crime is an issue, and a
Yes.
lot of criminologists will try to look at the causes of crime.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the causes of crime that really link back to is family experiences. If
Yeah.
you have a good life and you end up a period in your life where you experience huge amount of trauma, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that happen, that trauma, it comes in front of you like a brick wall or steel wall. So what happened? The mind goes back to times where it was really, really good in order to recover and recalibrate.
Mm-hmm.
So the mind goes back, and it goes back to his childhood. It goes back to his childhood looking for answers, looking for solutions, looking to
Mm.
understand how did I get here where I am in this thing. So
Yes,
the,
yes,
the huge relevance, the relevance of this subject is huge because this subject is the root of a lot of problems we have in.
in
Many
society,
people from
yes,
religious communities are having issues with the laws and constraints of the LGBTQ agenda. They have issues with it, they have
yes,
concerns with it. And it's important to understand how we end up here because they didn't see it coming. They don't know
yes,
how they did, right? A lot of people are losing their children, and when you get a certain age, your children is really important to you. It's really
mm,
important in your life because
mm,
all the hard work is gone. You've worked so hard. You buy a house and you're looking for purpose now to transfer a lot of your knowledge and your wisdom with your
mm,
grandchildren, and you want to raise that. But because there's a family issues,
yes,
missing part. So, in saying that, one of the contributing factors, going back to some of the cause, and I think the root cause of everything is the best way to address issues.
yeah,
We can't
definitely,
put, plaster on in places where you need a proper surgery.
mm,
It
mm,
just
mm.
doesn't work. So, some of the root causes of family issues is when people come together in marriages with very different and opposing ideas and understanding of exactly what constitutes a proper working marriage. They don't have any concept, they don't have any definition, they don't have
Mm.
any conceptualization, they cannot contextualize exactly A to Z or a skeleton frame of what constitutes a good marriage.
Yes,
We don't have that blueprint available to us. It's not in our head, right?
mm,
And it's not external. So the question is, let's look for that blueprint. And the blueprint print of this marriage really stems from two places. Number one, from the historical life. You look at history and you can find that. And you look
mm,
at religion. So the first man who God created was Adam. That's for the faith communities, the religious communities. Adam was the first man. And
mm,
he was a great man. He was a great worshiper. And he was the father of all human beings. And he had a family. And he did a fantastic job. And according to the Muslims, that Adam was a prophet of God. So means to say life start with the truth. It started with the truth.
yes,
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says that every human being was born upon the fitrah. What is this fitrah? It is the
mm,
natural law of goodness and
mm,
righteousness, pure
mm,
goodness and righteousness. So, and that is even reflected in our salah. Because if our imam is going to lead his salah and he is going to read one page or two pages or page and a half in each rakat, but when he goes to the masjid, he come to realize there are women there. Some
mm,
might be pregnant, some might be old, there are kids there, they're going to be crying. Then from his fitrah, he knows that he wouldn't, it's not practical to read one full page or page and a half or two. He's going to recite shorter surahs to accommodate the elderly woman, the children, the pregnant woman. Some men work very hard throughout the day. They're up since 5 in the morning. They have to get back again to bed. So they come to the Isha. So it's
mm,
not practical. So Islam is the fitrah. The fitrah of that man will tell him, shorten the prayers. Keep it
mm.
short and keep it sweet. Don't go long. That's fitrah, is recognizing that. In
Yeah,
our salah, we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. So we ask Allah to send salutation upon Prophet Muhammad and his family.
Salam.
So
Mm,
there is family there. So from the prayers, if we reflect on the structure of prayers, we can see the importance of family, and we
mm,
can even see the fitrah, that natural connection to nature and natural law. So if
mm.
you look at Adam, so life started with Adam, and the prophets that came with Adam developed and grew and expanded their family life. So the structure or the shape, that blueprint of family life is shaped and structured within the traditions of studying the history and lives of the prophets.
Yeah,
That is for the faith communities. right? So they have a
Mm-hmm.
reference. They have a reference. And we would kind of look and see when that start changing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when that those changes start. So if you look at the non-Muslim community who want to understand what is family, they will look at natural law family, biological family, traditional families, historical families,
Mm-hmm.
tribal families. And when they look at those structures from a secular point of view and they compare notes, they would see there's not much difference between the religious from the natural law biological families.
Yeah,
And
got you.
both of them kind of work together. So the
Mm-hmm.
Quran doesn't give you A to Z spelling out how to form a family and how to do it correctly. But what the
Mm-hmm.
Quran does, it recognizes natural law, and
Mm-hmm.
natural law together with the religious communities. And when I say the religious communities, I'm referring to the Abrahamic faiths. So Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In most cases, 90 something percent, they all say the same thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the structure. That's the structure we want to look at. Now, moving down, we can see that the traditional family, dismantling the traditional family, has reasons and motives. There are reasons and there's
Okay.
motives. One of those motives is for economical reasons, the other
Mm-hmm.
is for ideological reasons. So if you look at the tribal families, a tribe is made up of multiple big families. That's a tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have multiple big families, that's a tribe. And those tribal families, every family worked very hard for its own interests, its existence, its expansion. And what happened, that was a power within itself, a huge power, huge amount of energy, a huge amount of power, tremendous amount of power. And though that power get challenged, one of
By
the
other
people,
by other tribes
well,
or
well, well, first of all, Pharaoh challenged women and children. Pharaoh himself had an interest in women
mm-hmm.
and children. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why he have an interest in women and children. And in a ballpark figure, in a very simple way, when Satan and the satanic forces who exist in dark places want to destroy families, they attack the
Or
woman and the
society. Yeah.
whenever they dismantle the woman and the children, they
Yeah, yeah.
separate the
Society.
woman and
Mm-hmm.
the children. What happened? It's easy to steamroll up everybody else's. Job is done.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
A
yeah, yeah.
man can have so much of problems with his wife and his children, and they
Mm-hmm.
struggle to put food on the table. After that, he have no energy for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You, what you have, you finished. If you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a 9 to 5 job, 1 hour before you go to work, you're getting ready. 1 hour after work, you're back home. You eat your food, you say your prayers, you wash yourself, you go to the bathroom. Your life is finished. And if you have problems with the family, so sometimes a lot of us cannot grow to our full potential. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot grow to become who God wants us to become, to serve the will of God efficiently. We cannot grow to that potential because we have problems within the home. So number
Mm-hmm.
one, to for us to reach our full potential, it's we have to be uplifted and elevated. It's upward.
Supported, meaning supported, meaning
Yeah,
the our wives are really our the men's backbone, and need to be supported in order to carry out the mission. Obviously,
yeah,
the Prophet ﷺ, had his wives, and Khadija radiallahu anha was very supportive in the beginning of his mission. So we can see what can you say? You can see the role that the women play in our lives as being
foundational
super.
role. Yeah,
Yeah. So if that's taken away, the man can then not. He can't function. He doesn't function
no foundation.
optimally. He doesn't function.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
problem. There's going to be issues.
So the woman
Mm, mm,
and the children collectively, in harmony with the husband,
mm.
serve as a foundation for the man to stand on.
Gotcha.
And then the man has a divine calling, a divine calling. So when he tried to elevate to reach his divine calling in obedience to God, he need that foundation, that team
Mm,
strength
mm,
to, to be able
mm,
to fulfill his role. He need a team strength. So
mm.
he needs that
Gotcha.
team strength. And when that team strength is taken away from him, he cannot really perform the assignment that he may have from God. Because everybody have
Gotcha.
a core assignment. You have your
Mm.
prayers, you have your fasting, you have your obligations, and then you have an additional assignment according to the talents and gift that God give you.
Yeah. Every
Your
person's
gift,
on a mission. I get you. Everyone's on a mission.
yeah.
I
So
get you.
God give you a special gift, different to
Mm.
God gives somebody else a special gift, and that
Mm.
gift you have is to use that gift towards your assignment. But you
Mm.
cannot fulfill that assignment if your foundation that you stand on is weak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have no
Definitely,
foundation.
definitely.
You go
Mm.
home and your foundation is taken away from you. So it requires a collective team effort to get that spirituality. Now, the dismantlement of the family is strategically a spiritual issue because the majority, as Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him,
So, so.
inform us, the majority of the followers of the Antichrist at Dajjal will be women.
Mm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the reprogramming, the reshaping of women and the dismantling of women roles and
Mm-hmm.
take away the heroism from them, that spiritually works to prepare society for the coming of the Dajjal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It really it works together. So it's a spiritual element attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the dismantling of the family. But going right back, we could see even Plato. Plato was an apostate, a Christian
Mm-hmm.
apostate. So Plato was a German, a Christian apostate. He apostated from Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And when he apostated from Christianity, he felt, I could be great. And I want to show my enemies that how great I can be. So Plato's idea of life is to achieve human superiority, the highest, the supreme achievement a human being can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
He says that that can be done without religion and without society construct. So he says, free up religion, that's going to hold you back. Free up society order, society construct, because a lot of societies, even communism at that time, was, even though it rejects religion, a lot of its morals and principles had religious origins to it.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
Plato was an apostate. That's number one. Number two, Plato's mother used to disgrace him. She said he's a disgrace to his father because his father was a preacher, right?
Gotcha.
Plato asked a woman to get married in Switzerland and she refused him. And that left him devastated. And Plato
Mm.
died with severe mental health at the age of 44. And
Mm.
Plato is one of the founding fathers of nihilism and the dismantlement of family. Now, what happened with Plato? Plato is the reference, the root reference of a type of hedonism that is all into the self. So he doesn't like compassion. Plato don't like compassion, and he talks about the destruction of Christianity on all its moral values and the destruction of the state, the dismantlement of the state. Now, what happened? Adolphus Hitler was Plato's idol. Hitler felt that one of his major heroes was Plato.
Okay.
Hitler adopted Plato ideology to create a supreme race.
Mm-mm. I
So
get the link
Plato
now.
was
I see
about
the link.
human superiority, no religion. Religion is going to hold you back. No
Mm.
state construct. And he went into this thing called nihilism, all into yourself. He ended up with mental health problems. He died.
Mm.
He didn't have no family. His mother hated him. His sister hated him. He hated his mother. He hated his sister, and all these
Mm.
different things. And then that was Hitler's hero. And
Okay.
Hitler
That was his
adopted,
reference. Mm.
yeah, that was he, and he made a statue of Plato.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, Nietzsche. Now, what happened now? Hitler now wanted to create a supreme race, and he adopted these ideas.
Mm.
He adopted these ideas. So we can see Hitler being a model of, and Hitler hated religion, and he expressed that hatred for religion with the Jews. So if we want to look at the ideology that drives a kind of Hitler behavior, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that ideology is called nihilism, and nihilism really means nothing. Give up everything,
Everything. Okay.
everything. No connection to religion. Change your identity. You have no moral obligations. Don't feel shame, no moral obligation. Give up everything. And
mm,
this today agenda, by the modernist agenda, the modern capitalists we're dealing with, they hold a very nihilist ideology. So they
mm,
had religion and state working in the past. Then they dropped the religion and they went onto capitalism.
mm,
Capitalism was the goal. Then they dropped capitalism. They went into secularism. Then they dropped secularism and they're going to nihilism now. So we're dealing systematically, globally, with powers, godless powers. The powers that
gotcha.
be in leadership position, they're from a godless origin. And the only thing they serve is the agenda of the recreation of Babylon.
Mm. Let me just get this in context because now even I've noticed, you might say, aspects of devil worship, whether it be the recent Balenciaga thing, whether it be stars, pop stars, singers, or whatever, dressing in a certain way to represent devil worship, and these things are being played out in front of us. We can see society is changing. We can see now, for example, now a Christian cannot stand up and put across his morals. He's just shouted down. Society doesn't accept religious figures anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? So we can see the society is moving in a way which is leading to, openly expressing devil worship, etc., etc. So definitely we can see that now in society.
That's the freedom agenda. It's the freedom
Yes,
agenda. So the freedom agenda
yes.
opened those doors. But Christianity take a
Mm,
hit, bigger hit with the
mm,
modernist agenda than Islam. Because when Christianity was moved from being recognized as in relationship with a state, so religion and state work together. Hence the reason why
yes.
the ideology of the past was the most honorable thing you can live for. Number one, God, family,
Mm,
community, and country. You
mm.
give your life to God,
Yeah.
family, community, and country. Now, when the state kicked out Christianity out of
Mm,
the Christianity lost its powers, and when it lost its powers, it just have a kind of status symbol. So majority of Christianity is really boiled down. I believe in the Trinity, and I
mm,
believe in the crucifixion of Jesus. So the
mm.
crucifixion as well as the Trinity, and after that, there's not much there because
Yes, yes.
it lost its power.
Mm. I
Yeah,
mean, none of our UK, the politicians, the leaders, how they appear is godless. They're just godless politicians that don't really have any moral basis. So when people are, sitting down and watching the TV and they're being represented by individuals, they're all godless.
yeah,
They don't do anything based on a moral compass, and that's setting the standard for society. I think that's unfortunately where we're going.
yeah. Well, the previous scripture says, "As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end."
Mm,
And
mm,
we will just do a recycle to show this is where we end in. So we end in, or we heading towards the recreation of Babylon, and the religion of Babylon is hedonism. It's all
mm,
about pleasure and materialism. The
mm,
gods of Babylon is all about pleasure and materialism. So we head in for a proper hedonistic style lifestyle, a
mm,
godless lifestyle, a lifestyle that's based on selfishness, greed,
mm,
materialism. And
mm,
when selfish greed and materialism enter the hearts of men and women, you have
mm.
nothing left.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the question would be now, okay, if people have that mindset, their first question, okay, why have a family? Why get married? Why have a lifelong relationship? When really their main focus is the acquirement of material aspects, the get a house, get a mortgage going. There's no moral bond between the people anymore.
yeah,
As I said, secularists and the government has now kicked Christianity to the side, kicked main religions to the side. It's all about the requirement of material.
yeah, it's a material modernist movement. It's a material
Mm,
capitalist. And
mm-hmm,
that's the religion of Babylon. Babylon is
mm,
the religion. Babylon was built on desires, the Shahawat.
mm,
So the religion of Babylon, oh, Babylon was a great kingdom and they
mm,
did massive conquering. but they do that at the cost of they earn the anger of God. And we're
mm,
seeing the recreation of Babylonian pharaonic systems that is
mm,
kind of creating a climate that is ripe for the coming of the Dajjal, the Antichrist.
mm, mm.
So
So how do you think realistic now they are attacking the family? What are the apparent or maybe unapparent things that are doing that are undermining the family?
well, there's quite a lot. One of
Mm,
the things they do, feminism was a drive to
mm,
kind of dismantle the traditional family, feminism. And
mm,
while feminism was operating, feminism was either the impetus or a consequence of the feminization of men. So, one of
okay.
the things we have to acknowledge in these conversations is that there has been what they call metrosexual. Metrosexual is a terminology that was made when, in the early 1900s, there was an understanding and a huge observation that men are doing duties of women and behaving like women in order to have meaning, to have context, to be relevant, and to be desired. So initially, what happened is that men went excessively on bodybuilding, they went
Mm,
excessively on dressing, they went excessively on external show because they desire to be desired
mm,
because they became, the authority was gone. Men authority
mm,
was gone. So, for
mm,
example, the authority of the man societally was taken away from him. He was no longer the man. So he could not even speak like a man. If a man spoke like a man in his house, he can be accused of domestic
misog-
violence,
misogyny. That's what.
misogyny, and all
Mm,
the terminology. Misogyny, you're so misogynist, and this verbal abuse, and because he cannot be a man.
mm,
Anything you do manly, or that becomes threatening. Or I'm scared of him. Or because I'm scared of he could not be a man. Where the
mm,
traditional family, a man was admired.
mm,
Love was framed around great admiration for a man. So a man was
mm,
admired. Why was he admired? He was admired because he did everything for the greater good for his family. He was
mm,
admired for his devotion to God. He was admired because he was a symbol of strength. He contributed towards others in his team of the tribe. So men, all men were part of the tribe, and they were
mm,
part of tribal organization. So when you look at early childhood studies, we look at early childhood studies, and they asked, they presented, um, how is it and why that the children has so bad relationships with their parents. That
mm,
was one of early childhood studies. And it says the child perceived the man as tired. He worked
mm,
10, 20, 30 hours a day, whatever. He's overworked. He's miserable,
mm,
grumpy, and his wife don't even like him.
mm,
He, he's weak. The way he speaks, the way he moves, he's weak. So children really do not admire the male in the house because the way the male was seen before is not the same way the male is seen now. The male and a man can, if you have a big bass voice like a man, you have to
mm,
come down and talk like your wife in order for your children to listen to you or for your wife to listen to you. So the
mm,
man was his manhood was compromised. It was toned down. All the testosterone was taken out of him, and that's what they call metrosexual. So
mm,
the rise of feminism also there was a huge amount of efforts to reduce the man's authority in the home, subsequently causing him to have almost zero influence in the home.
mm.
So
There's kind of like two things going on. One, there is the rise of feminism. I think in that rise, they're obviously looking at the man and saying, okay, your authority has to be undermined in order for the women to be to rise, you could say.
yeah,
So take away
free.
the man's authority,
Yeah,
then the woman will rise, to be equal. Um, and that's another subject already. But also we have now we have like a kickback now where it's kind of like the red pill movement. We have, Andrew Tate, where these men are trying to find themselves to reestablish their so-called authority in the house. Or not in the case of authority, but for the man to be the man. There seems to be like a kickback that the men are fed up. Like, no, we're men. This is what we do, and it's a bit of a battle right now. It's a bit of a battle for men to really, trying to reestablish their authority in the home, because that has been labeled as being misogyny. So, what do you do? How do the men reestablish
But
themselves?
the Prophet ﷺ talk
That's
about
a.
the last days where
Mm-hmm,
someone will take something that might be wrong or might
mm-hmm,
be right and change the name of it. So if something is wrong, they change the name of it to make it right. And if something is right, they change the
change.
name of that to make it
Mm-hmm.
wrong. So
Yes, yes,
men
yes.
and masculine leadership and authority was taken away from the homes. Now,
Mm-hmm,
mind you, if we want to be comparative, if you go to court, there is an
mm-hmm.
authority,
Yes.
there's a leader, all right, there's a system, there's an order, and there's compliance. You have to
Mm-hmm,
be in harmony, all right. If you go to parliament, there is leadership,
mm-hmm,
there's a team, everybody in harmony, and there's an order. If you go to the army, there is leadership, there's a
mm-hmm.
structure, there's order, there's harmony. If you go to
Business. Mm-hmm,
United Nations, there's a team, there's leadership, there's order, there's a structure. So
mm-hmm,
everywhere else that seems to be successful, even in business models, there's leadership, there's a team, there's order. But when it comes to the family, they completely dismantle that. And they take that power from the family and put that into the industry. So the woman, if a woman is obedient,
mm-hmm,
compliant, supportive, and in harmony with the family agenda in service to God and in service to the family development, growth, and strength,
mm-hmm.
she's been oppressed. But you take that same woman with all the same mentality. She's obedient, she's compliant, she's supportive, she's in harmony. And you put she in a working industry, what she is? She's a strong woman. She's an independent woman. She is this
Yeah.
woman, and they praise her. So if she's good in the family, she's oppressed. If she's good in the capitalist industry, enslaving
Mm-hmm,
herself for them, then there's an issue with her. One of our people who's supposed to, one of the brothers who's supposed to be with us today, he is calling.
mm-hmm. Did
Uh,
we? Have you sent him the link?
I did send him the link, Saifullah. If you see him trying to get on, yeah, we can bring him in half an hour after. So
Yeah.
that's one of the issues. So we look at the one of the issues with
Mm-hmm.
the contemporary family. So um,
I mean, obviously, how it's kind of being described in these modern days or the modern terms, like, okay, um, the woman doesn't need to be so called. I mean, people don't even like the word obedient to the husband, or for example, um, the woman, in order to be fulfilled, she must be out of the home. Like, for example, being in the home and having your family as a priority. I mean, we know society needs stable families as the building block for society. So when women say, well, okay, my priority, I mean, obviously it comes to both the man and the woman, but my priority is not in the home. My priority is developing myself as a business leader, or, I have other priorities other than home. Then obviously that society is going to, it's going to fail. There's going to be, as you said, crime is going to rise. Children are not going to develop as good as they could if you didn't have a stable home. So where do we go from here then? How do we now? I mean, the big issue is now, and how is it affecting Muslim women? Um, is that there are high divorce rates? Okay, there are higher divorce rates because this is infiltrating into the Muslim home. That my priority is not our family or supporting you. It's basically I've got to be the individual and get mine.
well, there are two factors that
Hmm.
destroy the family unit. There are internal factors, meaning to
Hmm.
say the qualities, the behavior, the mentality of the individual. character, and
Mm-hmm.
there are external factors. So divorce is a force that disconnects people from where they should be.
Mm-hmm.
That's a divorce. It's a force that is going to disconnect you. The only person rejoice in the divorce is Shaitan. Rejoice in the, because he's the force behind every disunity and every divide. He's that force.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is for our people is that the family unit do not represent anything other than the will of God. Is everybody working? Marriage is
Mm-hmm.
partners for paradise. We said that before. So
Mm-hmm.
marriage is partners for paradise, and marriage starts with two people, groups of people, covenant with God. So
Mm-hmm.
it has to have the element we in service to God. We in a contract with God. Now,
Yeah.
the only way you're going to destroy that is if you have a very selfish agenda. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the group, we in this family, we in this marriage, we in this tribe for the glory of God, to magnify God's name, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what we in service of. The only thing that's going to destroy that is the selfishness, and
Mm-hmm.
selfishness is a disease. It is a disease, and every sin you could think about, just think about any sin, major sin, all of them deeply rooted in selfishness. So if
Mm-hmm.
I want personal power, I want individual power. I want my own. It's always about me, I, and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the messages that that is sent out there, is a message that feeds the ego of individualism.
Individual, yes, individualism, yes, yeah.
So sometimes the parent needs to say, "You can't do that."
Mm,
Why? Because that's going to hurt our family. You know, like
mm,
long time ago, we were told heaven's first law is obedience. And we
mm,
said the other way around. Obedience is heaven's first law. So
mm,
we were told to obey. We told obedience. But now, growing up is always, what do you want? So what do you want? And do you want this? Well, you can, yes, you can have this. What do you want? And it's
mm,
always feeding that ego of selfishness.
mm.
So
But you know what?
a child may ask, Mom, why do I do it? Because I say
Mm,
so.
mm, mm,
Because I say so. No, why do I do it? The question is feeding that selfishness. So if a woman or a man or any member of the family want to destroy the family, all you need to do is feed the shahawat, feed that ego of selfish desires and selfishness. That's one of the qualities. So we also want to draw some examples of what constitutes inward contribution towards building the family. So when you enter into a family, the family must build on problem solving,
mm,
team building, team building, good negotiation skills, good leadership skills, behavior management, loyalty, commitment. And these are some of the qualities that every individual must come to the table with. You come to the team to build a team, to be part of
mm,
a team, not to
mm,
break the team up. You come with humility. You come with the attitude to serve everybody in service of each other. This is a big serving each other. But the
mm,
opposite to that, you have arrogance, individualism, envy, grudge, inclusion, exclusion, politics in family, and disruptive behavior management disorder. So you have a whole
mm,
bunch of these things. And these are some of the internal factors that is embedded in the personality that is very toxic to any kind
mm,
of union, whether it's a marriage union or any kind of union. If you come with a team spirit, and when we are taken away from the land, we are taken
mm,
away from the tribe, we are taken away from big families, we lose the sense of being part of a team and
mm,
team building qualities. We don't have team building qualities.
mm,
Everything is always about me, myself, and I.
mm.
It's the
You know what?
religion.
Yeah, you know what thought just came to my mind is that while our conversation seems to be focusing on women, the fact of the feminist movement, the fact that the women want to be out of the house, it seems like the breakdown of the family is the woman's fault. From the conversation, people might think that, but at the same time, we do also have to focus on the men. Are the men the same caliber to keep the family together? Because he's going to know. We may know. Okay, there are certain social pressures on women to be a certain way. You know, you can have it all. You can be the mother, you can be the businesswoman, you can be the high flyer, and the man has to be able to manage to be able to manage the pressures that his wife is under to conform to society. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he might initially say, "Well, you know what, child, I'm done with this. I'm out of here." But not understanding the social pressures that the woman is under, how does he now comfort his wife and say, "You know what, your best role is this," or support us so he doesn't feel that, you know what, I can't do it. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the caliber of the men is also being undermined, not be able to be that team player. You understand? So I think the pressure's on both sides. One, the woman to be the individual and go for, and not prioritize her family, but then the man is not managing the family to keep the team together. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't want people to think,
In
oh,
one and outward.
we're we're
Pull,
we're, we're
pull and
yeah,
push. Yeah.
pull and push.
Pull and
That
push.
we're bashing. It's not about bashing the women. I think it's about, yeah, in this day and time, both the role of the woman and the role of the man, they're both being undermined, and we have to step up our game. If you get what I'm saying, just to give
But
a balanced
I
view.
think, I think
Mm,
families staying together, man and woman,
mm,
men and women, whatever it is, it has to be a communal effort. It's a
yes.
collective effort. It's
Mm,
not individualistic. And
mm,
for us to survive this
mm,
wave of global demonization, we have to go back to models of tribal unity. So your
mm,
family and my family must have a connection. It must have
mm,
to go back to unity. And
mm,
Shaitan do not like unity. Allah
yes.
loves two, and He loves three, and He loves the Jama'at.
Mm,
So
mm,
one of the things is that we there's a lot of things I you cannot say to a woman or a man cannot say to a woman. It won't reach her.
mm,
But if she has a collective or if there's a collective support for her,
yes.
and the thing is, we don't come from backgrounds like I have five aunties backing me, supporting me, directing me, making sure I stay on that straight path. We have five uncles and
Mm,
granduncles and grandparents who are right there. The minute you slip, they're stepping on your door. We don't have
mm,
that
mm.
extended to keep us on the straight and narrow
Ah,
path. So, number
got you.
one, in order to support the man and woman, sometimes
Mm,
the man cannot do it, or sometimes the woman cannot do it. We had to go
mm,
back to that collective model of getting families together,
mm,
start having marriages based on this commitment towards the development of the family.
mm,
And so it's an internal issue as well as an external issue. But as for the internal issues, it requires collective support.
mm.
It
Can,
requires collective support.
do you think, this is a question that just comes on? Do you think that reverts have a harder time in establishing families because they don't have that extended family to keep them together? Do you think, I don't know if you can, if there's any data to show, but do you think it would, that may mean because you don't have the extended family, the aunties and the uncles, that there may be a spike in divorces amongst revert? Do you think there could be some data for that?
There's definitely a revert would leave his community and he would cross long waters, he crossed bridges.
Mm-hmm,
Unfortunately, some of them burn bridges.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, a lot of reverts on their zeal to enter Islam, they burn bridges with the intention, I'm not going back there. And
To
a lot,
their family, to their family. You said
yes,
that.
some of the families who
Mm-hmm,
have very strong resilience to change.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So a person might come from a background of crime,
mm-hmm,
come out of prison for 2 years, 3 years. He said to his mother, I'm going to be Muslim. The mother said, oh my God, now it's gone worse. From crime to terrorism.
mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
elevate, you're going up, you're taking some
Mm,
inches up. So what happened is that a, a lot of reverts burn bridges that they
mm-hmm,
should have repaired.
Yes, 100%.
repairing.
I think I'm probably guilty of that myself. Mm.
And secondly, when they burn these bridges now, a lot of time, it takes time to integrate into the Muslim world, into the
Hmm.
Muslim community. And that integration sometimes is very challenging. So you
Yes.
come from one culture and you living in a certain area, and the masjid and the community is from a different culture, sometimes it's very challenging to integrate into that community. Very, very, very challenging.
Mm.
Except for those reverts who come from a background where they're white and their eyes are blue, they kind of integrate much easier. So if
Hmm.
a person is white and he's blue eyes, and you go to the Arab world, the Arabs treat him very special, royal treatment.
He's a special person.
Oh, very true. I mean, get funding. He can say A and A means gold. He can say B and B means diamond.
Mm,
White, blue eye, blonde hair,
mm,
man or woman, Arabs treat them in some next level way. But
mm,
we
mhm,
struggle to integrate. And it's that process of integration, that process, sometimes we get worn out or
mm.
we wasn't prepared for the long distance run.
Yes, it's
We
hard
wasn't
work.
that long distance run. Now, the
Mm,
internal communities now from opposite cultures, they don't have a history of bringing us in the reverts. They wasn't prepared for that mentally.
mm,
Mentally, they
mm,
wasn't prepared to see intermarriages from
mm.
somebody. And even internally, they
Yeah.
have a huge amount of issues that they have to offload. So, for
Mm,
example, in cultures, subcontinent cultures, in many of the subcontinent cultures, they have darker skin discrimination.
mm. Yeah, yeah,
Darker,
yeah, yeah,
so they have
yeah.
caste problem. So,
Hmm,
some of
hmm.
the highest caste is turns out to be the lightest people in complexion.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
So, if a revert burn his bridges and he enter into the Muslim community, and it takes time for that transition,
yes.
and then he find obstacles and barriers that he didn't prepare for. What
Mm,
happened? A lot of them either go back to the old ways,
yes.
or they
Yeah.
struggle between this world and that world,
Mm,
or
mm,
there's a believer they're grumpy. Why?
mm,
Because inclusion exclusion cultural practices is a huge issue. They
mm,
excluded and they want to be included,
mm,
or
mm,
they included people talk very nicely to them to get them to accept Islam, and after they accept Islam, they drop them like a hot bread. Or you meet one from a particular strand, you accepted Islam and you were the Deobandis, a Salafi meet you and you embraces Salafism, he write you off.
mm, mm,
Or somebody else from a different background and you embrace Islam and you kind of come from that background and oh, you're not with us. You don't love the
mm.
Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
That's
So you get right off. So
mm,
too much doors closed with these sectarian exclusion policies.
yes.
Then you go to a masjid, you see the masjid have in its structure a huge amount of politics,
Mm,
exclusion politics, internal politics, all these different politics. So you get very dizzy,
mm,
get
mm,
very dizzy with all these different. But that transition from darkness to light is a transition yet to be captured, to be
mm,
documented, to be spoken about, to be unfold, so that people can find out and navigate where they are and how they
mm.
end where they are.
Yeah, I think when obviously when from discussing this issue, we can see that already, the stress is to pull the family apart, to get the woman to be outside the house, to feminize the man, and there's no supporting family to bring them both together. We can see that marriages are, you might say, under threat. You have to go with the mindset in order to keep the family together. It's hard work. It's hard work, but in that hard work, is barakah and is blessing. So there does need to be support structures for revert Muslims, or revert Muslims must equip themselves to keep their marriages together. They have to work extra hard in order to maintain that marriage over a long period of time, because they don't have the same extended family which is going to support them. And I think that's something which we need to work on, in order to keep families together. I think it's very, very, very important point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely,
Mm,
definitely. It's and it's underexplored. Even this very conversation we have in here, We should
Yes.
be having this coming from the member. We should be having this so much that a person don't need one of these podcasts. They memorize these issues. They understand
Mm,
the issues so clear. It's
mm,
clear, crystal clear to them.
mm,
So
mm.
yes, reverts are under severe threat. But inshallah, Allah give them the reward. And if they're sincere,
Yes.
will fall, but they will be, they'll pick themselves back up, and Allah will
Mm,
help them. Um,
mm, mm, mm. No, definitely, definitely.
I think there's
Uh,
some other people trying to. I got some texts with other people trying to get involved in the conversation, and I have a commitment in next 4 minutes. I have another.
okay. No problem. Obviously, people are sending some information on the comments. But the brother who's supposed to come through hasn't come into the studio, so I can't admit him. But anyway, just to summarize, 'cause I know you got
I have 4 minutes here.
another discussion. Um, the attack on the family from the point of the you might say that the secularists now are pushing materialism. Devil worship is on TV and being pushed to us.
Nihilism. Nihilism.
Nihilism is being pushed to us. um what are the things that we can do I mean, this is before marriage, to prepare the man um and the woman for marriage, to know that this is going to be a battleground for us.
Yeah, and it's like anything else.
Hmm.
The sheep that stands alone gets devoured by the wolf.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
The marriages that stands with the group gets all the blessings. So
Hmm.
families have to come together to support each other, not to share grudge, not to encourage this one to divorce this one. They have to come together. And when they come together, they must understand humility, they must understand negotiation, they must understand reconciliation, they must understand leadership, they must understand service, serving, and they must understand their divine purpose. You have a
Hmm.
divine purpose, and your paradise is within that.
Hmm.
So we have to come together. We have to look at the internal factors, and we have to challenge our arrogance, because even if you have all the support you think you might need,
Hmm.
you have an atom weight, a fly weight, a mustard seed of that arrogance, that's enough to send a person to hellfire. So that arrogance has to be dealt with.
Hmm.
There's no other solution for that arrogance other than humility. We have to be very humble, and we have to embrace negotiation, forgiveness, and with some of these internal factors, the purification of the self, then we'll be able to rise above our selfishness, our greed, our grudge, our envy, and be able to embrace others. So,
Hmm.
family needs reconciliation, family needs unity, family
Yeah.
needs peace, they needs forgiveness, they needs all these things. But how can that be achieved? With elements of arrogance. So, and not until we change our
Hmm.
arrogance, not until we address our personal arrogance, our
Hmm.
grudge. We hold on to grudges too long. Not until we address our envy. A
Hmm.
husband could envy a wife could envy a husband, a child could envy its parents.
Mm, mm. But I don't think the individuals understand the blessings of the family, or they may take divorce light-hearted, or they may think I'm better off not being married. I mean, I hear the conversations together. We must have you hear the conversation. I'm better off without him. Maybe they find individual life, the freedom, um, better than being in a marriage. But it's a complicated thing right now. But we understand there are external pressures on the family, misgivings concerning the role of the man, the role of the women in the society, and we do need to re-emphasize that the building blocks of a stable society is the marriage, is the family, but it is being undermined, unfortunately.
Well, it's been undermined because if you look at William Beveridge, right? William Beveridge
Hmm.
was in the early in the 90s. and he created the welfare state. And he talks about the state having a responsibility for employment, education, housing, um, health, and security. So William Beveridge bore those responsibility on the state. Now today, the state don't want no responsibility other than two. Number one, economical, and two, security. The state is reducing its responsibilities to two. States don't want to have anything to do with investing in leadership, investing in family life. No, they want two fundamental responsibilities. Number one, they want to have full authority and power on all economic transactions. And number two, security matters. That's all they're concerned with, nothing else. So the William Beveridge report on getting states to accept that their top agenda is to provide health, the best healthcare, housing, education, employment, and security as the top agenda. That is all disappeared into two fundamental, just two. We want exclusive economic power, and two, security. And
Yes.
them work hand in hand. So the state kind of washes hands from all
Yeah.
that, and anything, the state will agree with anything to encourage and increase its economic power, and they will do
Yeah.
anything to increase its security powers. That's what power is about. Massive security expansion and massive economic expansion. So if the dismantling or the reshaping of family
Family.
give the
Yes.
state more money and give the
They're
state,
gonna do it.
and that's what they did in the Baltic Revolution. Every family member was divided. Why? Because the state, the socialist state, wanted what? Economics, and they wanted security. So they put an informer in each family. Yes, so each family had two informers.
Informers.
Right. That's to keep the state security strong and to keep the state economically powerful. So economics and security is what that's what the state is about. The state's not interested in anything else. Anything else, they kind of brush it off lightly. Brush it off lightly. Governments are not interested in that. So if we sit down and wait for governments to do that, that's not their responsibility. But there's nothing better to start resolving these issues than a collective effort. We need a collective effort, and Allah bless unity. There's a lot of blessings in unity. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ talk about, 27 times reward for the prayer that is done in congregation. Why? The prayer done in congregation ain't going to do nothing for Allah. It's not going to give Allah anything extra. He doesn't need anything. But the 27 times blessings in congregation, because in congregation, there's a hope that you will know each other and you will become a unit and you will unite. Now, when Allah says in Quran, and we created you in nation and tribes, that you know each other.
Know each other. Yeah.
What does that have to do? No. I need to know you as my brother. Knowing you will cause me to love you. Knowing you will cause me to work with you. Knowing you will cause each other to help each other. So the tribal differences and big tribes and different people are meant so that we know each other. So you cannot be praying in a masjid for 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years next to someone. You don't even know his name. You don't even know where he's living. You know nothing about him.
It's very bad.
That's the thing about it. We have a mechanical worship. We don't have a meaningful, emotional relationship with Allah or with our families or with our ibadat. Our worship is very mechanical. It doesn't have feelings in it. And that's what happened. We programmed so much, we lost our emotional human side. We just mechanical. But we create you a nation and tribe so that you know what I have to know you. So when I know you, I can love you. When I know you, I can support you. When I know you, we can support each other and we can live in unity. So knowing each other is in order to build a unit. That's why the Salah is in Jama'ah. To build a unit, I have to know you so that I can love you and I can support you and help you. And if I don't hear from you, I will call you. Now, if you look at previously, the perception a child will see a father. A child see a father because the father was part of a big group. So in the tribal life, father is part of a big group. So it's about, 200 men. Some are warriors, some are agriculture, some are fighters, some are builders, and he's part of that. So every
mm,
day the father goes with groups with hundreds of men, and he's part of that. So when the child see the father coming home, you see as a group.
mm, mm,
We
mm.
don't have a situation where once a week, seven brothers knocking on your door, bang, 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 bang. Come on, ready to go, you're late. Because we're not seen with a group. We don't even roll with a group. Most
Mm.
times, sometimes a man have a phone,
They
barely any,
see you as you'll be seen as a gang now.
but we're part of a unit, and we should be a
Yeah,
unit.
yeah.
We should be a team. We should be a group. And that's how we will
Mm,
be strong. That's how we will be strong and we'll gain strength. And that's where the love of Allah comes. The Prophet
mm.
ﷺ says, if
So,
all
so,
of mankind, from the beginning of time to the end of time, man
mm,
and jinn were to gather together,
mm,
all in one place, and to ask me of anything as much as you want, it will not deplete out of my ability, out of my wealth. It wouldn't
mm,
take anything away from me. But the point is, look at the metaphor. All of mankind,
mm,
man and jinn, gather together, all in one place, and asking me, and should I grant that? It goes to show you the metaphor there is
mm,
unity, and he would
mm,
grant it. He would give you whatever you ask for. It would not take away anything from Allah.
mm.
So, and that's what we're missing. We don't have that. It's always, I don't need you. I
I
don't
can,
need
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm just doing
you.
my thing.
But
Yeah, I get
I'm better
you.
off without you. And the
Mm,
other question too, we come from a society or a generation. If you close a tone, get a new one. Long ago,
mm.
we used to repair stuff.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
relationship is torn, get a new one.
We're the throwaway society now.
Throwaway society. So we don't repair, we don't reconcile, we not
Yeah.
fixing things. Long time you see somebody fixing something, now we just
Mm,
throw everything away. We're a throwaway society. And the same
yeah.
attitude we have in relationships.
That's all good. That's what I was thinking. We're not gonna repair the relationship. We're gonna throw away and get the next one. Yeah, I
All right,
see
I have
someone.
another commitment.
Yeah.
Inshallah, we'll catch up again. Jazakallah khair for your time. And
Yes.
to you, what's
Definitely, we just touched the surface. I feel that the Muslims in the UK, or of course, world, we're here to establish the Hujjah against mankind, and to call people to Tawheed, to call people to family, to call people to righteousness. And I feel this conversation is essential in this day and time. I think we need to do more work, more research on this topic. We will do it. But yes, it's been a pleasure once again. We will meet again next week. I think your guest messaged me behind, but I think there was a problem with the link. So let's try and get your guest, Bashir Ahmed. We'll try and get him for next week, inshallah. And we will carry on this topic of the family because it is under attack. There is a rise in divorce, and I think people are unsure of their roles in the marriage these days, and people are being, the roles of the woman being undermined, and the man is being
it's a kind of
undermined.
go with the flow. People go into relationships, they go into
Yes,
and they're going to marriage with their own ideas. They're very optimistic and it's go with the flow. But when
yeah,
expectations are not met, then things
mm,
start to go downhill. And we don't
yes,
have a blueprint, or we are not surrounded with
yes,
powerful people to knit this thing back together and send us back on track. We don't have,
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
need community. We need people to form groups, start
Mm,
having conversations of, the best of them. And the thing is, when you are loved, or you feel appreciated, or you feel
mm,
valuable in
mm,
a family, you perform at your best. And when
yeah,
you're not loved, you're not appreciated, and you feel like an outsider, you feel different, your mental health start going down. And there's a mental health factor in all of this.
mm,
And
mm, mm, mm,
nihilism, I just want to say this really important point.
yeah,
Nihilism, the authors of nihilism, the five prophets of nihilism, all of them in the documents, they say anybody adopt nihilism, number one, they'll have mental health problems, and number two, high suicide rate, very high.
mm,
So
mm,
nihilism creates high suicide.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Friedrich Nietzsche mentioned the high suicide rate in nihilism, and that's
Mm.
how he lost his mind. So
They have no morals, no basis for anything.
a decline
Yeah, they're finished.
is a consequence of nihilism, you go for freedom of everything. Our religion doesn't teach us freedom. Our religion teaches
No.
discipline. So
Discipline,
you go
rules
for
and
freedom, but
regulations.
you give up discipline. We have
Mm,
discipline, we have loyalty, we have commitment,
mm,
we have
mm,
spirituality, and that
mm,
keeps us on the straight path. So we don't
mm.
have the wide freedom, and the whole freedom agenda is a flawed agenda because freedom is, we're going to talk about how it's a flawed agenda.
Yes,
Never
yes.
work, never
We'll
work.
deal with that next week, Sheikh. We'll deal with that next
Right,
week.
inshallah.
I know you have to go. Jazakallah
Yes,
khair for your time.
taqabballah
And inshallah, we'll see you again next week.
alaykum
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
salam.